Greg Maddux ready to go to work against the Cardinals here in the first inning. The Cubs get a hit in the top of the inning, and that's it against Danny Cox.
And Maddux is making his third start of the year, his fourth appearance. Last time out against Montreal, he lost the ball game 4-2. He went 8 innings, gave up 6 hits, 4 earned runs. Walked 3 and struck out 4. Had the one bad inning, and after that he threw the ball pretty well. The earned run average is up in the early going, but everybody predicting big things for Greg Maddux. He's got a good pitching demeanor. He's got a great straight change and a surprising fastball.
Here's Vince Coleman. The Cardinals have worked a lot with Vince since last season on getting him to be more patient at the plate and also trying to hit ground balls. He may have all he can do to catch up with the fastball of Greg Maddux this afternoon, and the first pitch is in for a strike. Coleman ignites this Cardinal team. He leads the major leagues in stolen bases, so the Cubs don't want him to get on. Moreland at third, very shallow, and it's quickly 2 strikes on Coleman.
Mike Shannon brought up an interesting point yesterday when he talked about the time the game takes to play when Coleman gets on base, because they pay a lot of attention to him. They throw over to first base a lot. He was talking upwards of 20 minutes if he gets on base 2 or 3 times a ball game.
Last night here, Coleman was 0 for 4. At third, in between hop. Nice play by Moreland, and he gets him. Well, there was no question Keith was concentrating on his defense. That was a very difficult play.
Take a look at this. It's do or die on the short hop for Moreland. Now he's playing him close. He's got to move to his left. A swipe, the ball winds up in the glove, and then the arm of Moreland overmatching the legs of Coleman.
I agree with your point, Steve, about moving from right field to third base, that mentally it's just a huge job to play the infield compared to the outfield. Ozzie Smith showing the bunt, and he takes ball 1.
There's so much more involved. Number 1, you have to move to both sides on ground balls, react to line drives when you're only 70, 80 feet away from the hitter, and that's a tough situation.
Ozzie Smith not hitting much lately, but breaks out. Dawson, nice job to cut it off, and Ozzie Smith will have a stand-up double. Had Dawson not cut that ball off in the alley, it might well have been a triple.
Here's the big difference with the Cubs in the outfield this year, the fact that they've got 3 outfielders that can go get him. Andre Dawson cutting this ball off. You see it hit right off the wet spot. This ball looks like it's going all the way to the wall, but Dawson able to cut it off and holding Ozzie Smith at second base. Watch it again. Good backhand stab by Andre Dawson.
The hitter will be Tommy Herr. For Ozzie Smith, a smile crosses his face because he was hitless in his last 12 at-bats. Both teams with a hit in the first inning. Tommy Herr with 15 RBIs. He has been Mr. RBI for the Cardinals here in the first 13 games, trying to pick up Ozzie. And the sun trying to peek out here at Busch Stadium. Ball 1.
The one thing that Maddux has done in the early going is start to throw a lot of fastballs when he gets in a jam, and that's something that Jody Davis and Herm Starrett are working on. They want him to throw all of his pitches, but he has a tendency to just go with number 1 when he has runners in scoring position. That's going to hurt him in the long run.
After Herr, Jack Clark, no score, first inning. Two and 0 on Herr. And also, I think when Maddux gets behind in the count, he's more apt to go to the fastball. You pitched so many years, Steve. I would think it's a factor of getting confidence in either the curve or the slider for Maddux. And if he doesn't get it early, it's going to be a long afternoon.
Well, 2-0 to a good hitter. As you take a look at Gene Michael, he's got to throw something off speed. I would be hoping he'd throw the good straight change. That's his second best pitch.
Just low, and it is 3-0.
Now he's thrown 4 fastballs in a row, and it's going to be up to Jody Davis to try to break the pattern.
Ozzie Smith at second base, 1 out. Cardinals first, no score. Ozzie Smith still playing on a sore ankle, and he's got a good lead. And it's ball 4. Well, for a young pitcher to get in a jam in the first inning, that's the last thing that Gene Michael and Herm Starrett want to see. You know, I recall at Ho-Ho-Cam Park this spring, watching a Cubs game. Maddux started. He struggled in the first inning. And of course, in spring training, you let him go. And boy, he was marvelous after the first inning.
Well, it's always the toughest inning because you're coming from a mound in the bullpen that's not exactly like the mound on the field. And I'm not saying that it happens a lot, but there's some teams that might even try to take advantage by making that bullpen mound a little lower than the mound on the playing field. But it is an adjustment, especially for a youngster.
Jack Clark is the hitter. Smith and Herr on base, one away. Another fastball, and Clark takes ball one.
And now it's 6 straight fastballs, and you know that Jack Clark is going to be up there looking for something that he can drive, looking for a fastball with the youngster struggling with his control.
Clark homered twice in last night's game. He has 4. And he fouls it back. You didn't tell me that this might be combat duty.
Well, Jack Rosenberg has exceptional hands. You know, it was the same man here on my right who lost the typewriter in Wrigley Field a few games ago because he just couldn't react quickly enough. So don't look for help on your right.
My reaction is down, and that's the only good one I have. 1-1 on Clark. There's the breaking pitch, and it's 2 balls and 1 strike. And again, Maddox falling behind.
Now he's got a tough pitch to make. That was the straight change. He mixed up the pattern some, but Jack Clark, who hit a couple of homers yesterday, has shown the Cubs that he can take the ball out in any part of this ballpark. One home run went to right center, the other to straightaway left field.
No score, first inning. Wrap-up game of the 3-game series. Cubs winning the first 2, 5-4. Jody Davis's 9th inning home run Tuesday night, and Andre Dawson's grand slam last night. Swing and a miss. Quick throw to first. Herr is back. And that's where Jody Davis is so valuable. And you're really not trying to get the runner picked off necessarily, but you're going to keep Herr another step closer to the bag, if nothing else.
And if you can do that, you have a good double play man up in Jack Clark. And if you can take 1 step off the lead of Tommy Herr, it'll mean he can't get into Sean Dunston on the pivot at second base. So a good, smart play by Jody Davis.
2-2 the count, 1 out. Ozzie Smith at second, Tom Herr at first. Cards are a tough team to double up most of the time. Now a look to second on Ozzie. You look at it, the Cardinals in 13 games have hit into only 5 double plays. And of course, Clark, of all the Cardinals, is most susceptible, as Steve points out. The outfield is deep and straight away. Breaking pitch and a full count on Clark. Now what do you do here? The old National League story. Power, you're going to go with a fastball. Jack Clark, a dead fastball hitter, despite the fact he did hit a Sutcliffe breaking pitch out of here last night.
I take a gamble and throw him the fastball because he's a youngster on the mound, but I throw it up and in. The Cubs have had success with Jack Clark throwing the ball by him up and on the inner portion, and let's see where the youngster goes.
3-2 pitch, and they want to keep Ozzie close. Whitey Herzog with 1 out in this situation would not be adverse to running, though Clark, of course, will strike out a lot. Three-two, and they're running. Swing and a miss. Ozzie Smith is safe at third. Herr goes into second. And Maddox has his first strikeout. And he went with a breaking pitch down.
Good straight change, and he got it in a good spot. He completely fools Jack Clark. But a good jump off second base by Ozzie Smith. So the Cardinals do advance. And I asked Jack Clark something interesting. I said, what will it mean to you to have Jim Lindeman behind you, giving you a little protection? He said, it'll mean more double plays this year. Neither of us can run very well.
The Chicago product who starred for 3 seasons at Bradley University, Jim Lindeman. He has been nursing a pulled hamstring and has seen very little duty lately. Already, though, with 3 homers and 9 RBIs. Key spot early, and it's ball 1 on Lindeman. You know, there are some fellas that just have that ability to drive in runs. And even as a rookie in spring training and now early in the season, Jim Lindeman doesn't even flinch. He's just an RBI man. And many touting him as a potential rookie of the year in the National League. Change that floats up there, and it's 2-0.
Now he has first base open, so he doesn't want to give in to Lindemann. Lindemann had 19 RBIs in spring training. You have to go way back to find a Cardinal who's approached that. It's tough to knock him in Florida.
On deck is Curt Ford, a left-handed hitter. No score, first inning. Cardinals threatening. There's a drive to right, a base hit. That'll score Ozzie Smith. Dawson on his way to the plate with a throw. Here's her. The ball hits her. Lindemann will go to second base. And the Cardinals take a 2-0 lead here in the first inning as the ball eventually trickles into the Redbirds dugout. And Jim Lindemann, bad leg and all, now has 11 RBIs, and with the ball going into the dugout, he is awarded third base.
It's a high fastball. 2-0 count. Power hitters love fastballs, and he drives the ball into right field. RBIs 10 and 11. Watch the throw by Andre Dawson. It arrives at home plate at the exact same time as Tommy Herr. And he knocks it into the dugout, and Lindemann winds up in third. Watch it again. The throw is off target. Andre with a strong arm, but needs a little better location here. Looks like a soccer play. Herr drives it in the dugout, and the Cubs are down early.
And Curt Ford is the hitter. He's 4 for 9 in the young season. Breaking pitch, ball 1. What Lindemann does so well that impresses the veterans around baseball is, as a rookie, he's able to wait on pitches, and he's able to go the opposite way and go with some power to right and right center field. He's at third, and it's 2-0 on Curt Ford. Ford is playing center field for Willie McGee. McGee left last night's game, played in a rather chilly atmosphere. He is nursing a hamstring that bothered him last year and really is out for precautionary measures as much as anything. There's a strike, and it is 2-1 on Ford. Curt Ford from Jackson, Mississippi. He is a friend of Dennis Oil Can Boys. They played college ball together. He's trying to pick up Lindemann, and it's 3-1. So it's been a rugged first inning for Greg Maddux, the younger brother of Mike of the Phillies and the youngest player in the National League.
And I think you'll see somebody come out of the dugout if Maddux does not get Ford.
The fastball chopped to the mound. Maddux throws him out, and that'll do it. But the Cards do damage. 2 runs on 2 hits. The big blow, Jim Lindemann's 2-out 2-run single. And 1 runner left. And after an inning, Cardinals up 2-0.
You're watching exciting Chicago Cubs baseball over WGN-TV Channel 9 Chicago, America's #1 sports station. Steve Stone back in the booth with Ken Wilson, and so far, Ken, you'd have to say a rocky start for the Cubs youngster.
I would expect, Steve, that Mr. Maddux will settle down a little bit, but you know, I wonder if it's nerves, what it is in the first inning for a youngster like that.
Well, I think it's a lot of adjustment for him, and he can't let the Cardinals get off to too much of an early lead because Danny Cox throws the ball so very well.
Danny Cox gave up 1 hit in inning number 1. He faces Leon Durham, Jody Davis, and Sean Dunston. The Cubs with some coming back to do here early at Busch Stadium. And it is 2-0. The Mets holding down first place in the East now. Half a game in front of the Cardinals, a game and a half up on the Cubs. If the Cubs are able to come back and win this one, both the Cubs and the Cardinals will be 7-7. Here's a bullet. Here's Ford, and there's out number 1, which takes me back to last night and that defensive gem that Curt Ford came up with out in right field.
I don't think you'll see too many better plays than the play that Curt Ford made. He left his feet, he dove flat out, and at the peak of his extension, he was able to grab the line drive and rob Jody Davis of what looked like a 3-base hit.
Batting 6, number 7.
Here comes Jody Davis. Jody's got that average at .314 now. Had the big home run here in game 1 of the series. And was collared last night facing Danny Cox. Ball 1.
Jody has taught himself a valuable lesson in the early portions of this season. He's going to right field a whole lot more than he did in the early portions of his career. Consequently, that batting average, generally around the 240s, is now up over 300.
He's off to a good start, and he has always loved to hit here at Busch Stadium. The curve from Cox, and it is 2-0, and Cox is doing what Maddox did, and that's fall behind the hitters. Cubs, of course, on to Montreal for the weekend. 3 afternoon games. The curve hanging a bit and lifted out to Kurt Ford in right center, and they're 2 down. Broadcast tomorrow at 12:30. Jamie Moyer against Bob Sebra.
All of us at WGN would like to thank Anheuser-Busch for its cooperation in making possible Ken Wilson's appearance on the broadcast today. And we'd like to pass along get well wishes to WGN Television Jim Feely. He's in Elmhurst Hospital.
Here's Sean Dunston. His average is at 200. Sean still looking for his first RBI, his first home run of the season. He's had 50 at bats, has 10 hits, and now 11. He rips it into the corner. Will Dunston try? Yes, he will. He'll go for 2, and he is in. He picked up the fact, as did first base coach Jim Snyder, that Coleman in the corner bobbled the ball just a bit.
Coleman has had his problems defensively in left field. We saw it in the opening series at Wrigley Field, and we see it again here. Now he gets to the ball quickly enough. Watch what happens. This is not a difficult hop, but it hits the heel of the glove. And the Cubs know if they get a chance to run, they're going to run on Vince Coleman. The arm is just not that strong. And Dunston, with the great speed, shows you some aggressive base running.
Speaking of defensive outfielders, don't forget to credit an error to Andre Dawson in the bottom of the first. The error on the throw home that allowed Lindemann to go on to third base. Here is David Martinez, who is hanging on in the big leagues because of his glove and perking up a bit with the bat. Trying to get a run on the board here in the second inning with the Cardinals leading 2-0. And Pagnozzi wants to go out and visit with Danny Cox.
One of the things he's talking to him about are, number one, a set of signs with a man at second base. Cox hasn't had that, so they go through a different set of signs. They'll go through 3 or 4. And number two, you have first base open with a pitcher due up next. You want to make sure you don't get a fastball in the hitting zone to Dave Martinez. So the youngster, Pagnozzi, has gone out to talk with Cox, and we'll see how he works him.
At second base, Dunston, 2 down in the second inning. And it is 2-0. I would think they would feel that Martinez is susceptible to chasing pitches out of the strike zone. Well, he finally exploded offensively here in game 1 Tuesday night with 3 hits, had an RBI, and trying to pick up an RBI here. Cox throwing changeups and gets one in. 2 balls and 1 strike. One thing Danny Cox does have, he has an outstanding changeup. They play Martinez straight away. 2 down. You're right, Steve. He will not be seeing a fastball soon.
Well, he's not going to see one that's infinitely hittable. They want to take their chances with Maddox, but what they don't realize is that Maddox, who's an exceptional athlete, is also a pretty good handler of the bat.
Cox working to Martinez, and he sends a fly ball to shallow right. Slowly coming in Lindemann, and now there, and that retires the side. A Dunston double. That's it for the Cubs after an inning and a half. Cubs trail 2-0. Jim Lindemann's 2 out, first inning 2-run single. The difference in this game, and Greg Maddox will see what he can do about really getting on track here in the second inning.
Well, you saw a youngster taking advantage of a situation where he probably shouldn't have been swinging. Dave Martinez swung at a high changeup in a situation where you know Danny Cox wasn't going to give him anything too good to hit with the pitcher coming up, and he actually got himself out.
Here is Pendleton. The fastball, ball 1. And that situation, you just felt Cox with 2 outs and a runner at second with a pitcher on deck would not throw a strike to Martinez, but he offers on a pitch upstairs. 1-1 on Pendleton. Pagnozzi on deck, and then the Cardinals pitcher, Danny Cox, here in the second inning. Pendleton, a switch hitter, and he's jammed, and Sandberg throws him out.
Batting cage number 19, catcher Tom Pagnazzi.
Here comes the Cardinal catcher, who has seen limited duty. He is 2 for 5, has a home run.
And he hit that home run over the right center field wall at the 383 mark, so you know he's got some power, and you like to see that in a backup catcher.
He would be in Louisville right now if it were not for the injury to Tony Pena. Pena still has the cast on his arm, the broken thumb, hit by a pitch early in the season. It's 2-0. Tony was telling me, Steve, that he had x-rays 2 days ago, and the doctors were astonished at how well the break is healing. And he's moved a week and a half to 2 weeks ahead of what was expected. He was going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and now they're talking 5-6 weeks, or maybe even less. The 3-0 pitch, and it's a strike.
Well, here's a man who's never been injured before, and he was down there on the field before the game working out his right arm, throwing long toss. He's fortunate that it was on his left hand, because he's able to keep his arm in shape and get back a little sooner.
Now 3-2. You know, I always thought the Latin players lied about their age, said they were younger than they really are. I kidded Tony. I said, if you're healing so quickly, you must be real young instead of older. You're trying to fool us. He just laughed.
Well, he loves to play the game, plays it with great enthusiasm. We saw him in his days with Pittsburgh. He just was happy to be out there every day, and he's got to be a big addition to this team.
3-2. Out of play. One down, nobody on. Cardinals second, and the Cubs find themselves trailing 2-0. Oh, it's tough, Steve, on the Cardinals with John Tudor out, and Tudor could be out all season long. There's a chance of that, though they're saying 2 or 3 months. And of course, with Pena out, that takes the heart of the team away. Pagnazzi draws a 1-out walk, and that's 2 walks given up by Maddox.
Well, unlike Pena, who's able to work out with his arm while he's injured, John Tudor's going to have that leg in a cast for 2 months. So you know that your arm does a great deal of atrophying, and I don't know if he's going to be able to come back even at that 2.5 to 3 month range. It depends on his shoulder. And don't forget, this game has a history of guys who have hurt their legs, eventually hurting their shoulders and ruining their careers.
Danny Cox, in a sacrificing situation, takes a ball. That's the first thing Whitey Herzog said. He said 2 to 3 months is one thing. A couple months in the cast, a month to work out and rehabilitate. But he says, I wouldn't take a chance. He's already had a questionable shoulder. He said, I just don't know if Tudor will be back at all this season. Moreland coming in from third. Cox gets the bunt down. Davis will play it to Sandberg. And the sacrifice 2 to 4.
I think John Tudor's coming back is going to depend a whole lot on where the Cardinals are toward the latter stages of August, perhaps. And if they're in the race, they will try to take a chance perhaps on John Tudor coming back. But if this team for some reason is not close, I can't believe they'd gamble on a man who certainly can win 20 games every season that he starts.
Vince Coleman in an RBI situation with 2 outs in the second inning. His only RBIs this year came in game 1 of this series, a 2-run single. 2-0. The Cardinals are on top in inning 2. Outfield extremely shallow, playing to left. And Walker in left field is real shallow.
School of thought on Vince Coleman is throw the ball up and away from him and let him hit the ball in the air to the left side. Doesn't have much power that way. For Coleman's side of it, he wants to slap the ball on the ground and run.
It is now 2 balls, no strikes. Another place Coleman is susceptible is down and in. Most left-handed hitters can hit pitches down, but down and in is a tough spot for Vince Coleman up there left-handed. Maddox going away and gets a strike. 2-1. That's a real pitcher's pitch. You're not going to bother to offer if you're a hitter, or you shouldn't in that spot.
Ted Williams, who made a chart of home plate, listed low and away his 240 zone, and anytime you can get Ted Williams thinking about 240, you know that's got to be the toughest pitch to handle.
Pagnazzi at second base, 2 down, second inning. There's a base hit. Dawson plays it on a hop. Pagnazzi on his way to the plate. The throw way offline. The run scores, and Coleman is at second. And Steve Stone, that's the way the Cardinals keep getting the extra base, and they have done it in back-to-back innings to start this game.
This is really a bad play by Andre Dawson. You don't want to make that throw home and let Vince Coleman go to second. You really have no chance, especially Dawson, who didn't field that ball cleanly. And you see the throw way off the mark. Durham had to come over the mound to cut the ball off, and that put another Cardinal in scoring position. Watch the throw. It's well off the mark, and the bull has to come over the mound. He doesn't have a great deal of choice. He's got to make the throw to second, and it's just too late. So a mental mistake on the part of the Cubs.
Whitey Herzog, who has been stung by 2 late-inning losses the last 2 nights, watches as Coleman gets back to the bag on the throw to Dunston.
Les Lancaster up and throwing in the pen.
For Greg Maddux, it's his second look at the Cardinals this season. He was brilliant opening day back at Wrigley Field. 3 1/3 shutout innings in relief, but it's a different story today.
I don't know if Coleman might have hurt his hand going back into second, or he's just brushing himself off, but you can see he's taking some time there.
A little mud.
Well, going back into second base a lot of times, especially when you're not looking for it, you have a tendency to jam one of your thumbs, and we've seen that happen a few times. It looks like he's making a uniform adjustment. Might have about a pound of dirt in a place where he might not want it.
And he doesn't mind showing the adjustment to the bleacherites, but not to the high-priced fans in the box seats. Coleman at second, 2 away. Cards have scored a run in the second. Sandberg to the bag, the tag, they get him. Coleman is picked off as Maddux fires to Sandberg, and that ends the Cardinals' second inning. They get a run on a hit. Nobody left, and after 2, the Cubs trail 3-0.
I'm Ralph Kiner, along with Tim. And Tim, what's your last name?
Steve Stone back along with Ken Wilson here at Busch Stadium, and so far the youngster has not thrown very well.
Greg Maddux has had to rely too much on the fastball, gotten behind in the count. Also, the Cardinals trying to take the extra base at every opportunity, and Andre Dawson has found it a little tough to throw out Cardinals at home plate.
But a fine play at second base. Take a look at the pickoff. Sandberg sneaking in back of Vince Coleman. Paul Runge on the call, and they get him. Watch it again. Coleman strays a little bit, and Maddux and Sandberg make him pay the price.
Now Maddux will lead off here in the third, trying to help his own cause, and he takes a rip, and it's 1 strike. Maddux, then Walker and Sandberg as the Cubs are trailing 3-0 early. Outfield shades to right, and Maddux really getting his rips, is in the hole, 2 strikes.
This is a big outing for Danny Cox. His ball club has lost 2 in a row. They've fallen out of first place. With John Tudor gone, everybody looks at Cox as the stopper, and the stopper has to be just that. When your team starts falling on some hard times, you have got to win a big ball game. So this game, even more important for Cox than it normally would be.
He won 18 2 years ago when the Cardinals won the National League. And then, of course, as Steve pointed out last year, he injured himself in a freak accident. Pretty soon they'll call those Cardinals accidents instead of freak accidents down in spring training. 2-2 is the count on Maddux. A lot of people forget when they look at his record last year, he was 12-13. But Danny Cox did not pick up his first win last season until June 1st, and he was 2-7 at one point. So he had a tremendous finish. Up the middle, Hurd, very tough play. He gets him. Boy, Maddux was hustling down the line.
This is a good play by Tommy Hurd. It's a chopper right over the mound, and even though Cox is 6'4", he just misses this ball. Watch the backhand and the good off-balance throw by Tommy Hurd. Now, he's not known for his great acrobatics at second base, but here he makes a play reminiscent of Ryne Sandberg. Tough to get this ball off, but he gets enough on it to just nip Maddux at first.
Here's Chico Walker. Chico fly to center in the first inning. Ozzie Smith at short, playing almost in back of the bag for Walker, who takes a strike.
This is because of the charts. Now, they keep defensive charts on every hitter, and they figure that if Walker hits the ball in the air, he'll hit it probably to left center, but if he hits it on the ground, he's going to take it back up the middle. 1
ball and 1 strike. Yeah, you talk about Tommy Hurd. not a flashy second baseman by any stretch of the imagination. But how'd you like to play next to Mr. Flash, Ozzie Smith? Boy, you've got to hurt by the comparison. Into the corner. Walker will go for 2 as Lindeman gets the ball back in, and the Cubs have their 3rd hit. So the hits are even, 3 aside.
Chico got in front of this slider and rips it down the line. Now Walker's thinking about 3 bases. The play's in back of him, and he's got to pick up his third base coach. John Vukovich is making sure that the man in right field, Jim Lindeman, fields the ball cleanly. Now watch it. Vukovich, the third base coach, is looking at Lindeman. As soon as he picks up the ball cleanly, he tells Walker to hold it at second. You have to pick up your coach when you're about 3 steps in front of the bag at second.
The hitter is Ryne Sandberg. Ryne is already 1 for 1 and in the dirt. Ball 1. Well, you look back at Sandberg when he came out of high school in Spokane, Washington. Bobo Brayton wanted him to go to Washington State to play baseball. He didn't. There wasn't a lot of interest in him as a college player. Fairly low draft choice by Philadelphia. Turns out to be one of the very best players in baseball.
Guys just mature at different levels. You know, the scouting report on Sandberg in the Philadelphia system was that he couldn't play major league shortstop, but they didn't feel about second base, and he plays a very good major league second base.
Well, there are a lot of fellows who couldn't play major league shortstop. 2-0 the count on Sandberg, and now Sandberg has Danny Cox right where he wants him.
I truly believe that with the athletic ability of this fellow, if he decided to play shortstop in the major leagues at this point, he could do it because he has all the confidence and all the athletic ability you'd need.
There's a strike. Well, you make that adjustment to the big leagues. Once you have everything in place to go back and change one thing or develop one aspect of your game, wouldn't be that tough. You take a fellow like David Martinez right now, he's trying to work on everything, and you're almost drowned in the atmosphere. 2 balls a strike on Sandberg. 1 out. Walker at second base. In between hop for Pendleton. And he throws out Sandberg.
I think it's good to note on that play that Terry Pendleton did it the right way. After he made the play, he kept a close eye on Chico Walker. He made Chico Walker commit. He made Walker show him that he was going to go back to the bag at second. If you do that, the man can't possibly advance to third. We've seen it where the Cardinal runners especially will take the ground ball to the left side, freeze, wait for the man to throw, and then advance to third base, but not on Terry Pendleton.
Andre Dawson has had 17 at bats against St. Louis this season. Has had 2 hits, both of them home runs. He takes ball 1.
He was saying last week that he hoped he hadn't peaked too early. He had such a good spring after not being in the lineup for quite some time, and now he got off to the slow start, but it's a matter of time until he starts hitting the ball consistently.
He's trying to pick up Walker. 2 outs, 3rd inning, and it's 1 ball, 1 strike. Cubs are trailing the Cardinals 3-0. You know, he said that to me last night too, Steve. He said, gee, because I said to him, I said, when I saw you in Arizona, I couldn't believe how well you were swinging the bat. You got a late start. And when the Cardinals and Cubs met for the first 2 of the season at Wrigley Field, I thought Andre was really swinging well. He was as aggressive as you could be. Gene Michael was happy, and then all of a sudden they shut the faucet off. And you're right, he felt maybe I peaked too early. There's a base hit for Dawson. Here comes Walker. Lindeman with a decent arm, and the throw is not in time. And Andre Dawson has 11 RBIs. And for Andre, my friends, that is a slow start.
Good throw by Lindeman because he gets it head high as it passes Jack Clark. Now, if Andre Dawson was going to go to second base, Clark could have cut it off. Watch the throw. Watch where it passes Clark. And it's a little late. We'll take another angle and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It passes Clark. He can cut the ball off. He chooses not to because the throw is right on the mark, just a split second too late.
Keith Moreland will dig in. Dawson at first, 2 outs, and it is 3-1 Cardinals. What people around the National League are going to hear in a hurry about Jim Lindeman's arm. Strike 1. Here's a fellow who played third base. They converted him to a first baseman. They put him in the outfield, and we're worried about him. And he can flat out throw, and he is accurate.
Well, you saw it that time. That was a bullet 1 hopper, and only the speed of Chico Walker enabled him to score. And you like to see Andre Dawson going to right field with a breaking ball. The average will start to climb.
There is a strike, and Moreland finds himself in the hole 0-2. Keith, in his first at bat in the first inning, grounded out to Tommy Herr. 330 down the lines here at Busch Stadium, 383 to the power alleys, and 414 to center field. He's jammed by a fastball. Herr backpedaling, and that retires the side. But the Cubs come back. They get a run on a Walker double and a 2-out Andre Dawson single. And after 2.5, 3-1 St. Louis.
This copyright telecast is presented by the authority of the Chicago National League Ball Club, which has a right of approval of the announcers and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Chicago National League Ball Club is prohibited.
Ozzie Smith leads off, hits it into the crowd foul, and it is 1 strike on the Wizard. He ignited the Redbirds in the first inning with a 1-out double. Scored later, as did Herr, who drew a walk on Lindemann's 2-out single. Card's third run came in the second with 1 out. Pagnozzi, the catcher, walked, was sacrificed to second, and scored on a Coleman base hit. And Dawson driving in Walker, who had doubled in this third inning, and it's 3-1. Dunston. Boy, you got a charge on most of the Cardinal hitters, and Sean knows that, and Ozzie Smith is retired.
Boy, did you bring a smile to the face of Jack Rosenberg earlier when you said that you were a Michigan graduate. His eyes lit up.
There are a couple of us around, I understand.
Fellow Wolverine.
Go Blue.
And then a lot of you folks out there who haven't heard from Ken Wilson in a while don't realize that he started in Hawaii, his broadcasting career in professional baseball, with none other than Al Michaels.
We tried to hide ourselves over there for a while. We had a good time on the beach. Tommy Herr, and he takes ball 1 from Greg Maddux.
Well, that's an interesting time because they had some pretty good ball players pass through there. I don't know how any visiting teams beat that Hawaii ball club. What with all the sand and surf and some of the nightlife, it was tough to win as an opposing ball club in Hawaii.
A lot of players had to sit out. Good pitch at the knees, and it is 1-1. There were a lot of cases of bad sunburn over there.
I had one of them. I played for the Phoenix team. We went to Hawaii. We'd go there for 7 days, play 8 games, usually come back 1-7 or 0-8 on occasion. It was tough to play there.
1 out, nobody on. Herr up the middle, and Tommy Herr has a single here in the third inning.
And Tommy Herr might be hurt at first base, and this would be a tremendous loss for the Cardinals, who certainly don't need any more problems. Now they're going to take a look at it. Sometimes going across the bag you can stumble, turn the ankle, and that's Gene Gieselman coming out to take a look at him.
He is the National League's #1 trainer. Why? He's got to be. He trains more injuries than anybody else. He's had 2 very tough years here.
Woody Herzog was talking about putting everybody in a box on Easter Sunday because 2 years in a row the Cardinals have suffered a devastating loss on Easter. Last year it was Danny Cox, and that was in Florida. And this year it was John Tudor on Easter Sunday. Now Whitey Herzog with a lot of concern coming out, and let's take a look at where Tommy Herr might have hurt himself. Now take a look at the right foot. It looks like his spikes might have caught in the clay around home plate.
That could be tough on the paycheck of the groundskeeper.
Also, here's a man who's had surgery on both knees, and sometimes when you turn, that knee's going to give you trouble, and Tommy Herr is going to leave the ball game, and Jose Oquendo comes in to run for him. So this is a matter of great concern to the Cardinals.
Jose Oquendo.
So Tommy Herr departs. Oquendo will pinch run. One of the things the Cardinals are fortunate in having is Jose Oquendo. He is an outstanding defensive ball player. Fans found that out when he played shortstop regularly 1 year for the New York Mets. So he can play second base short. And in the last year or so, he's developed offensively. So he's a big asset for the Cardinals. As is said, he could be a regular shortstop in the big leagues for a lot of teams. Ball 1 to Jack Clark.
I'd like to pass along best wishes on a speedy recovery to Vicky Berger at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago.
1-0 on Clark. Jack struck out in the first inning. 2-0. Cubs looking for 2 here, and as we mentioned earlier, Clark a good man to turn the double play on. The outfield again deep and straight away. There's the change, and Clark out in front. 3-1 Cardinals. Hits are even 4 aside. Andre Dawson has committed the game's only error.
Clark had a devastating hand injury. They rebuilt his thumb. They put a pin in there. They had to take care of the tendon, which was completely torn away from the bone. But he's come back with absolutely no ill effects.
Lindemann is on deck. Maddox working 2-1. Now 3-1. So you're back in that problem area again if you're Greg Maddox.
And he got him with a 3-2 straight change last time up. A big pitch for Maddox. Now 3-1. He's got to come to him with 2 good ones, and a man with tremendous power looking for a fastball.
Oquendo is running. Clark takes the swing, and Oquendo has a stolen base. It's 3-2 on Clark. So the Cardinals running again. They are 2 for 2 in the stolen base department today.
High fastball. He throws it by Clark. And Jody gets the throw up at second. Jose Oquendo in easily. And Rhino with some acrobatics.
So Oquendo fits right in on this Cardinals ball club. You can run with the rest of them. 3-2 on Clark. A chance to pick up an RBI in a 3-1 ball game. Cardinals. And Clark draws the walk, and that's probably not too surprising after the stolen base. They'll work on Lindemann and have more defensive options.
Lindemann is not 100%. He's got a hamstring problem. It started on a suicide attempt, and then he aggravated it trying to beat out a double play. So both Clark and Lindemann with hamstring problems. And although Jim is not running 100%, the way he can swing the bat, it doesn't matter much. Whitey really needs the power in this lineup.
11 RBIs now for Lindemann with that 2-run, 2-out first inning single. Clark at first and Oquendo at second. Cubs really need the ground ball here. Curve for a ball. If there's one thing about Lindemann, it's the fact that he doesn't run that well.
And the bullpen busy once again. Les Lancaster, if he does get in, it'll be a big outing for him. The Cubs want to activate Scott Sanderson and will, and that'll put a pitcher on the bubble. Somebody's going to have to go down, and that's always an anxious moment for any pitching staff, especially when you're down at the tail end of it.
2-0. Well, Maddox behind on the count again. He has walked 3. He walked her in the first inning. He scored. He walked Pagnazzi in the second inning. He scored. And he has walked Clark here in this inning.
And now Herm Starrett's going to go out to talk with him. It was on a 2-0 count that Lindemann singled on a high fastball in the first inning. Now this visit's going to serve 2 purposes. Number 1, he wants to make sure that Lancaster is ready and thoroughly warmed up in the bullpen. And number 2, a lot of times a youngster on the mound will have a tendency to make the same mistakes. He wants to make sure that he doesn't get a fastball up, and especially out over the plate to Lindemann, because this man all spring hit the ball to all fields, which is unusual for a power hitter. You see many power hitters, especially young ones, try to pull everything. Lindemann doesn't seem to fit the mold.
Cubs on to Montreal. 3 afternoon games the next 3 days. Jamie Moyer works tomorrow, 12:30 for the telecast. Scott Sanderson on Saturday penciled in. Steve Trout on Sunday, and then it's home to Wrigley for 8. The Western Division teams coming east. The Giants, Padres, and Dodgers at Wrigley Field.
We're going to broadcast the Friday and Sunday game, and Gary Bender is going to be in the booth with me.
2-0. Out of play. 2 balls, 1 strike. You will have some fun with Gary Bender. There are not many gentlemen any nicer than Gary.
He's also from your neck of the woods and my neck of the woods, the Phoenix Scottsdale area.
There are a lot of broadcasters there. I don't know why.
It's good on the throat with all that heat in the wintertime.
Dry heat. I think we're just hiding again. 2 on, 1 out. Cardinals third. And Lindemann hammers it over to the photographer as well, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. But you're a lucrative broadcaster living in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. I am a mere peon. You're a restaurateur and a writer, and, well, the list is long.
Well, I'm aspiring to get to the Pinnacle Peak area, which is where you live, and eventually I'll be able to get up there.
I'm aspiring to get there sometime myself. 2-2 is the count on Jim Lindemann. And he pops it out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Cubs want to send along A big hello to Ann Jillian, who sang the national anthem before the game. She did a fine job, and she's got a lot of friends in the Chicagoland area. Of course, she's a star of television and stage and screen. So, Ann Jillian, hello.
21-year-old Greg Maddux has been in trouble in every inning. He's in a jam here in the third. Cubs trail 3-1. He had Lindeman way out in front. Jody Davis looking up into the gray sky, and this ball out of play. This could be a little tough time here, Steve. It's lightening up a little. The lights are on, and the weather forecast generally is for better weather. And if you ever get that break, all of a sudden you get darkness, a little light, and sometimes you can lose that ball in the glare.
Bobby Dernier was talking before the game about the new seats here at Busch Stadium. The fact that they added 3,000, but also they took out the pink seats and they added red seats. And he said now it's a lot easier to pick up the ball. The red seats providing you with a pretty good background. And of course today it's not quite as bright as it normally is here in the afternoon, but it looks like the sun is starting to peek through.
Be a beautiful spring day before long. Off-speed pitch, and Lindeman almost takes out third base coach Nick Leyva. Leyva managed in Puerto Rico this past winter. Lindeman played for him, and Lindeman really developed a lot as a hitter during winter ball.
Now he's thrown him 3 straight changes. So you'd say, well, it's time for the fastball. I'd rather see the breaking ball. I'd rather see the curveball down, but let's see what Jody calls.
Fastball up the middle to Dunston to the bag. 1 out on to first. They get the double play. Lindeman hits into the double play, and the Cubs put out the threat. No runs, a hit. Cardinals leave 1. 3 innings have gone by, and the Cardinals lead the Cubs 3-1.
Back in St. Louis, we move into the 4th inning with Steve Stone and our producer-director Arnie Harris. This is Dwayne Stats. It's a 3-1 ball game. The Cubs got out of that inning on the double play, Steve.
And the youngster made a good pitch because he had him set up for the fastball. He got it inside. Lindeman's not going to beat out any ground balls, and the Cubs emerged unscored upon.
Well, here's Leon Durham batting against Danny Cox. Oquendo stays in the game to play second for the Cardinals, and the pitch is low to Durham, ball 1. Durham hit the ball well again his first time up, but lined it to Kurt Ford. There's Oquendo at second. There's ball 2. Cubs got down 3-0, scored a run in the 3rd with the RBI belonging to Andre Dawson. There's ball 3 upstairs.
Wonder if Whitey Herzog has that good health insurance policy. The way his players are going, they're going to have a hard time fielding a team.
3-0 pitch is a strike on the outer edge. 3-1. Well, you said it. There's Herzog trying to weather the injury storm. Foul ball out of play.
As Whitey said, there's not much you can do except grin and bear it. But the bad luck that this team has run into early in the season is something.
Getting the word on her now. Pulled groin muscle, so he's out of there. Durham pops it up. Foul ball headed toward the stands, back a third, and out of the reach of Pendleton. So Cox must make another 3-2 pitch. Well, they had Lindeman out the first 2 games of this series with a hamstring problem. He's back in there. But Willie McGee is having some problems with his legs. Ozzie Smith had an ankle problem a few days ago, but he's been back for this series. 3-2 pitch, well hit to center. Ford going back. He will have room, however. Before he hits the track, he makes the catch.
I think they're real concerned about Willie McGee because 3 times last year he was sidelined with hamstring problems. Now he has the knee operated on and the hamstring acting up again. And anytime you have that type of operation, you're going to put more pressure on the other leg. And so you're going to run into hamstring problems. And the Cardinals hoping that it doesn't become a chronic situation where McGee is plagued with it because, as you know, Dwayne, speed is about 75% of Willie McGee's game.
And the Cardinals game, for that matter, with Coleman and Smith and McGee. Here's Jody Davis, ball 1. There's Tony Pena's out. They lost Tudor.
Ken Daly.
Jeff Lottie.
And the list goes on and on.
1-0 the count on Jody Davis. He lines this one into center, but Ford is right there. So a couple well-hit balls here in the 4th inning, but the Cubs had nothing to show for it so far.
And bear in mind, with his injury list, the Cubs are not going to sing any sad songs. They want to take advantage of the fact that the Cardinals are hurting. They've taken the first 2 games of the series, looking for their first sweep here in St. Louis since August of 1983. And they picked a good time to run into this club, because when everybody gets healthy, this is a team that a lot of experts pick to contend with the New York Mets.
Here's Sean Dunston. He picked up his 4th double of the year, his first time up, and lines this one off Pendleton's glove. That's going to be a base hit. Ozzie Smith to make the pickup. Hit number 5 for the Cubs off Cox. Pendleton got a glove on it. Here's a look.
This is the 3rd time that Pendleton has gotten a glove on a ball and hasn't been able to stop it. He is a fine third baseman. He's not having a particularly good defensive series, and this time Dunston takes advantage of it.
2-out single for the Cubs shortstop, and here's David Martinez. His average is 167 after the fly ball to right in the 2nd inning. 0 for 1. 3 hits here Tuesday. Martinez takes one upstairs. Ball 1. We've seen a lot of off-speed stuff from both these pitchers today.
Especially to Dave Martinez. He saw 5 straight changes from Danny Cox the first time up in the 2nd inning.
The move to first. Dunston back in. Well, Martinez with 3 line drives Tuesday were singles. Hit the ball into the air his first time up off Cox this afternoon. This one is low.
Well, Wood River is not too far from here. Do you have a good stay with the home folks?
Had a chance to do a little visiting. Wood River is still there.
The big statue, the Dwayne Stadt statue, still in place.
Now the pitch swung on and a foul ball out of play. 2-1. Well, if you don't get a statue where you came from, I certainly don't get one where I came from. The count is 2-1.
Well, I was born on Staten Island, and they did erect the statue for me.
Oh, is that
I kind of like it. Yeah, it's good looking. Did a little renovation this last year, and it's starting to be pretty spiffy.
I've never seen you in that headwear. 2-1 the count. There's a shot back into center field. Ford drifting back for this one, and he'll make the catch. So Kurt Ford takes care of 3 fly balls in the 4th. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and we move into the bottom of the 4th. 3-1 St. Louis. Bottom of the 4th inning, 3-1. The Cubs trail the Cardinals, although they've out-hit the St. Louis club by 1. Kurt Ford will open the bottom of the 4th against Cub right-hander Greg Maddux. Maddux so far has not felt very comfortable out there.
Well, he's walked a man in every inning, and he's been in trouble in every inning. He'd like to get through this one in easy fashion, save himself some pitches, and turned over to his offense. The Cubs have stayed close to the Cardinals in 2 games. They've beaten by a run in each of them.
Ford with a big chop. That could be trouble, but Maddux makes a nice play on the ball and runs it in. Ford with his great speed, anytime he hits a hopper like that any place on the infield has a chance to beat it out. But Maddux is very quick off the mound and makes the play.
You're not going to see a pitcher with more mobility than Greg Maddux. Looks like a wide receiver running this one down, and then it's on to first, and Ford no match for him.
Here's Terry Pendleton. He grounded out to Sandberg his first time. Temperature 49 degrees at game time. The weatherman said we may reach the mid-50s in St. Louis this afternoon. There's a strike to Pendleton. Still a pretty good turnout for a 12:35 start.
I think I'd have to pour coffee on you to reach the mid-50s today.
There's a pitch inside. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, the sun that looked like it was trying to fight its way through now has gone back into hiding, and it's starting to get a whole lot darker here in St. Louis.
The pitch is away. 2 balls and a strike. 1 out, bases empty. Cardinals with 2 in the first, A single run in the second inning. Cubs with a run in the third. Maddox misses upstairs. He's walked 3, and 2 of those walks have been converted into runs by the Cardinals. Maddox shoots it home, 3-1. Broken bat, ground ball back to the hill. Maddox to Durham, and Pendleton is out, pitcher first.
I think you hit on a good point, Dwayne, when you talked about 2 of the runs coming because of walks. It seems like young pitchers especially have a hard time pitching through the rough spots, and bases on balls just compound that. You see, a veteran might walk 3 or 4 men in a game, and it doesn't seem to hurt him because he knows he can make the big pitch in the big situation. The rookie doesn't have history to fall back on, and he makes a mistake, and if there's a man on with a base on balls, it just magnifies everything.
Here's the catcher, Tom Pagnozzi. He walked and scored his first time and takes the first pitch in there for a strike. This fella joining the Cardinals when Tony Pena went down. Ground ball, shortstop. Sean Dunston up with it, and a throw to first in time to retire the side. So a 1-2-3 inning in the bottom of the 4th for Maddox through 4, 3-1 St. Louis. We go into the 5th inning. It's a 3-1 ball game. St. Louis on top, and it has started to rain here. Fans have broken out the umbrellas, and the rest have started to scurry for cover. Greg Maddux opens for the Cubs. He'll be followed by the top of the order, Chico Walker and Ryne Sandberg. First pitch, bounding ball left side. Pendleton cutting over to make the pickup, and the throw to Clark is in time. So Maddux, the first out in the Cub 5th, and is 0 for 2 on the afternoon. Then we'll bring up Chico Walker. Walker 1 for 2 and has scored the only run for the Cubs in the 3rd. And Jillian has joined us in the booth, and a great job on the national anthem.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Walker picking up his first extra base hit in the 3rd. This pitch a little low for a ball. There's Cox. No strikeouts nor any walks so far in this one. Foul ball out of play, 1-1.
The Cubs faced him in Wrigley Field. He wasn't real sharp most of the time, but he did keep the Cubs to 1 base hit, the home run to Sandberg. What he did have was an overpowering fastball. Struck out 8. He doesn't have that fastball today, but he's had good control.
He misses away. 2 balls and a strike. Walker's double was lined into the right field corner in the 3rd. Pop up, foul ball, and out of play. That squares the count at 2-2. An overcast day. It rained this morning in St. Louis, and this brief rainfall we've had here in the top of the 5th has been it since we started. Now it has stopped raining. Walker fouls another one out of play.
I think the strong point of Danny Cox is the fact that he's able to run that fastball in on the hands of left-handers. That's the most difficult pitch for any right-hander to make. He has a good look at that outside corner, but getting the fastball inside and stopping it from tailing back over the plate is a difficult pitch.
There's a high fly ball toward the line at left. Coleman is there. 2 gone. Vince Coleman handles the fly ball hit by Walker. And Ryne Sandberg's on his way to the plate. Sandberg single in the 1st, grounded out to 3rd in the 3rd. Cubs winners last night 5-4, courtesy of a bases loaded walk and the grand slam home run by Andre Dawson. Cubs won the first night here 5-4 on a 9th inning home run by Jody Davis. And the pitch is in for a strike. Cox making his 4th start. Last time out he worked 3 innings and had a no decision against the New York Mets. The pitch is too low. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cox gave up 4 runs, all earned, on 7 hits to the Mets. His other victory, aside from the one over the Cubs, came against the Pirates. Ground ball, base hit to right. That's number 6 for the Cubs, the second of the afternoon for Ryne Sandberg. This one comes with 2 gone and gives Andre Dawson an opportunity to swing the bat in the 5th inning.
Rhino now with 5 hits in the series. He had 3 hits opening night, was held hitless yesterday, but you can see that he's feeling a lot more comfortable. He's taken the ball to right field. He hit the ball up the middle his first time up in the 1st inning. And when he's doing that, just making contact, the pitchers will start bringing the ball inside to him, and that's the ball that he can take out of the park.
Dawson has the run batted in for the Cubs. This pitch hit on the ground to third, backhanded stop by Pendleton, a look to second, and now the play to first. Clark digs it out, and Dawson is gone 5-3. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and a man left. We go into the bottom of the 5th. 3-1 St. Louis.
Saturday, May 2nd is Cubs poster day at Wrigley Field. Every fan who attends the Cubs-Padres game on May 2nd will receive a Ryne Sandberg poster, compliments of Gatorade. Good seats are still available, and to purchase your tickets in advance, call Ticketmaster at 559-1212.
We go to the bottom of the 5th with the Cubs trailing the Cardinals 3-1. Let's pause for station identification. This is WGN-TV Chicago, Channel 9. Danny Cox put down a sacrifice his first time up there and takes the first pitch too low for a ball.
Now I ask Ann Jillian who's her favorite player. She tells me John McEnroe. Does that tell you something about her baseball IQ?
Well, I liked your response. Bounding ball to third. Nice pickup by Moreland, and the throw to first got him. Nice play by Keith Moreland on the backhanded pickup, and the off-balance throw to get the St. Louis pitcher, Danny Cox. We'll take another look at that one.
For the man making an adjustment to third base, Keith Moreland has looked spectacular down there, and you won't see too many better than this. He takes advantage of the AstroTurf and the fact that a pitcher is going down the line. He gets him easily at first base, and Moreland, crossing over into foul territory, got a lot on that throw.
1 gone. That brings up the top of the batting order, Vince Coleman. You question Ann's political leanings when she told you that McEnroe was her favorite player.
Just want to know if she was a communist, that's all.
Isn't Magic Johnson playing third today?
No, Magic Johnson is not playing third today. It's Magic Moreland, as a matter of fact. You take a look and say hello to our fans.
There's a camera down there somewhere, Ann. Coleman swings and misses at the first one, strike 1. Coleman picked up an RBI single in the 2nd. First time up, he bounced out Moreland to Durham. Cardinal leadoff hitter, batting .316. .216. Started the afternoon at 2:04. Shortens up on the bat and takes the pitch for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's Coleman, the 25-year-old speedster. Greg Maddux just turned 21 earlier this month. He retired the Cardinals in order in the 4th after struggling through the first 3 innings. Misses upstairs, 2-1. Cubs set to leave St. Louis immediately following this game, headed to Montreal. All 3. 3-1 now to Coleman.
With the speed of Coleman, he has the luxury of knowing that a fastball is coming on every 3-1 count. Putting him on first base is like giving him a double. So he can just relax, pick out a fastball if he likes it, and try to wail away.
The 3-1 is ball 4, up and away. So Coleman gets a free pass. He's on for the 2nd time. He's over there with 1 out. And with this guy over there, you have to figure that he's going on every pitch.
Jody Davis threw him out at third base in this series. They haven't had much luck with Coleman at second base. In fact, the only time he's been thrown out all year was by Jody Davis. So this will be a good cat and mouse game. Maddux with a good move to first. He's very quick with his feet.
Steps off the rubber. Coleman will play that cat and mouse game. He'll give you the move as if he's set to go on every pitch. He'll make a quick move and then stop. He's at first with Ozzie Smith, the hitter. Again, Maddox with a look over there. As you pointed out, Steve, Maddox can be quick to first. Sometimes he'll ignore the base runner over there, but when he pays attention to them, he can be quick.
Earlier, he picked Coleman off second base on a great move.
Coleman goes and stops. The pitch is outside.
What I'd like to see is a good fastball inside to Smith, and Jody go behind him and throw to first base. Many times on 1-0, you'll see a base runner running, but that time, had Jody gone behind Coleman at first, they'd have picked him off.
This pitch is a strike call. It's 1-1. Jody mentioned something the other day that was interesting in regard to Coleman. With Coleman keeping an eye on the catcher or the first couple of steps, if he concentrates too much on that catcher, then that puts him at a disadvantage if a pitcher has a good move out there. One ball, one strike. Coleman with a good size lead, and Maddox goes over to first.
Bob Engel's a veteran at first base, and I'm certain that Rich Hacker, the coach, has alerted Engel to the fact that there's a tendency for pitchers not to stop with Coleman at first. We've seen some balks called in this situation.
Coleman again with a big lead as Maddox steps off and Coleman returns to the bag at first.
The tendency is to quick pitch. The youngster will have to avoid that.
He goes and stops. Ground ball to first. Durham down to second. One return throw. They got them both. No, he missed the bag. Durham tried to get back and couldn't find the bag. So Coleman is cut down at second. 3-6 on the force play, and Ozzie Smith reaches on what turns out to be a fielder's choice. Here it is again.
The toughest double play for a first baseman is the 3-6-3 double play, because you have to look at the ball and locate the bag without looking at it. And here you see a stutter step, and the bull thought he dragged his foot across, and it wasn't the case. Bob Engel right on the call.
So the Cardinals are still alive here in the fifth inning. Now Jose Oquendo will bat. Oquendo entered the game as a pinch runner in the third inning when Herr came up with the pulled groin muscle.
And they have to be careful down the third base line. Oquendo has a couple base hits this year just that way.
And a line drive up the middle, base hit to center. Smith goes to second and stops. Martinez up with the ball. So Oquendo served it into play and lines a single to center. And that brings Jack Clark to the plate in the fifth inning with 2 men on.
Oquendo's become quite an offensive player. Everybody knew he could field. When he came up with the Mets, they were touting him as their everyday shortstop for the next 10 years. But he couldn't hit at all as a member of the Mets. Since coming over here with St. Louis, he's gotten stronger. He's worked very hard. He's hitting out of that severe crouch. And now he's hitting the ball well.
Clark has struck out and walked. Maddox struck him out on a changeup in the first inning. Greg with a check of second. The pitch is a little low, ball one. Maddox on for the fourth time this year, his third start. He worked 3 1/3 scoreless innings against the Cardinals on opening day in relief of Rick Sutcliffe. There's a line drive up the left field line into the corner for extra bases. Smith scores. Oquendo around third. He will score, and Clark pulls up at second with a double. So it's now 5-1 as Clark doubles home 2. RBIs 9 and 10 for Jack Clark. Here's the 1-0 pitch.
You know, you can analyze this play, but you really have to go back to the 3-6-3 double play that wasn't made. That gave the Cardinals an extra out in the inning, and that's the result. 2 RBIs for Jack Clark. He now has 10. And anytime you give this team 4 outs, or any major league team, you invite something like this.
Here's Jim Lindeman. He singled home 2 runs in the first inning. Gene Michael trotting to the mound. Les Lancaster has been busy in the Cubs bullpen. Maddox touched for 2 more runs here in the bottom of the 5th. It's a 5-1 contest now as Michael goes out there. Jody Davis along with Maddox. There's Clark at second base with his first hit. That's his 3rd double. So the Cardinals with 2 in the first, 1 in the second, and now 2 more in the 5th inning. And they have a 4-run lead. It's 5-1. Lindeman, after the base hit in the first, grounded into a 6-3 double play in the 3rd inning. So he's 1 for 2. The pitch in there for a strike.
It's one of the few curveballs that Greg Maddux has gotten over the plate in the first 5 innings. And that's a pitch that he's going to have to perfect if he's going to be a consistent winner. Fastball and straight change both came in on the same plane, and you want to give the hitters something else to look at, and that curveball for him will be the secret of his success.
The 1-strike pitch. That's a little close. 1-1 now. Well, the Cubs are going to have to come from behind if they beat the Cardinals and sweep the series. Down 5-1 at the moment. Maddox misses. So it's a 2-ball and 1-strike count to Lindeman. Lindeman, a product of Maine West High School in Des Plaines. There's Lancaster in the Cubs bullpen. The 2-1. Ball 3 by Jody. Clark's on his way to 3rd. A wild pitch charged to Maddox.
This one, he just sails outside. Jody was set up low and in. So the youngster having a tough outing here in St. Louis.
He really never has gotten on track here this afternoon. He retired the Cardinals in order in the 4th. But in every other inning, he's had some rocky going. Here's the pitch. Ball 4. He walked in. That's the 2nd walk of the inning. 5th walk of the ball game for Greg Maddux.
Center fielder, Kurt Ford.
Kurt Ford due up now for St. Louis. Ford 0 for 2 with a year 4 out of 11. He's shown the Cubs in the brief exposure they've had to him that he can swing the bat a little bit. Runners at 1st and 3rd. 2 runs home, 2 gone, and the pitch is too high.
Maddox has gotten him out twice, jamming him with fastballs. And they feel that if they can keep the ball in on the hands of Kurt Ford, he's not going to do too much damage. You get the ball out over the plate, and he can slash that ball in the gap.
Pitch too close. Nope. Called strike on the corner. Ford moving back, but the pitch caught the corner, said Randy Marsh, and the count is 1-1. Maddox fake to 3rd and a look to 1st. Nothing doing. There's Jack Clark, the runner at 3rd. Lindeman's the base runner at 1st. Line foul. Yep. Somebody lost the refreshment down there. So the count is 1-2. It's a long walk back to the concession stand.
Yeah, but just a little more revenue for the people in St. Louis.
Here's the 1-2. And a pop-up foul, third base side. That's going to be tough. Moreland digging, but he can't get there.
You'd have to think with a pop-up on the left side, Moreland coming from third and Jody Davis coming from behind the plate. It's going to be, Greg, can you get to that one? As it turned out here, he couldn't.
So the count to Kurt Ford holds at 1-2 strikes. As it turned out, Maddox came about as close to catching that as Moreland did.
And there's a lot of room here in St. Louis on pop-ups. So you can't give up on anything.
Here's the 1-2 again, up and in. It squares the count at 2-2. Ford started in right field last night. He's playing center field this afternoon.
And to stay in the ball game, Maddox is going to have to get Kurt Ford.
There's a ground ball to first. Durham up with it. He'll make the play unassisted. And that retires the side, but not before the Cardinals scored 2 runs in their half the 5th. And through 5, the score stands St. Louis 5, Cubs 1. Through 5, it's 5-1. St. Louis leading the Cubs. On to the 6th with Keith Moreland set to lead off against Danny Cox. Moreland and Durham and Davis. An afternoon game tomorrow from Montreal. 3 day games from Olympic Stadium. Monday an off day. Back home to Wrigley Field on Tuesday. The Cubs will take on the Western Division, starting with the San Francisco Giants Tuesday at Wrigley Field. And that Western Division stacking up to be quite a race. San Francisco, Cincinnati, and Houston battling it out. The Dodgers trying to somehow be a factor over there.
I think the emphasis in the National League has shifted. It used to be that the East was a dominating division. I think if you look at the teams, you'd have to say right now that there's a little more pop in the West. You have 3 real quality ball clubs going at one another, and I think that's going to be a great race down to the wire.
Here's Moreland. The pitch is inside, ball 1. Keith has grounded out to second and has popped to second. Still looking for that first multiple hit game this year. He takes one on the outer edge. 1 ball, 1 strike. Moreland with a single and a walk last night. There's a fly ball into center field. Kurt Ford is there to take care of that one. Ford handled all 3 outs in the 4th inning around a base hit by Sean Dunston. Now here in the 6th, handles the fly ball hit by Keith Moreland.
Looks like Manny Trio is starting to throw the ball in the bullpen, which would lead you to believe that Gene Michael is going to flip-flop the batting order, perhaps bringing in Les Lancaster and inserting Trio in the lineup. There you take a look at Manny. So it looks like that might be it for Maddox, but we'll have to see.
And here's Leon Durham, nothing out of 2. Pitch is a little high, ball 1. Durham facing the right-hander Danny Cox, an 18-game winner 2 years ago. 12 and 13 last year. A strike, it's 1-1. This one is low, 2-1. Considering the fact that Cox last year started the year with that broken foot out of spring training, had a heck of a year. He didn't get a lot of support, foul ball, and the count is 2-2, but his earned run average was less than 3, almost identical to the year before when he won 18.
And I think what gave the Cardinals a lot of hope for Danny Cox was he won 9 games out of his last 15 starts and then had a great spring, so they realized he just got stronger as the year went along. He's a big, strong man. You're looking at him right now. Danny Cox is 6'4", 225 or 30 pounds. So he's durable. He's got a great arm, and it looks like he's poised for a big year.
There's a pop-up. That will be a foul ball. Pendleton backpedaling the other way now toward the line and makes the catch. So Durham fouls out to Terry Pendleton. 2 up, 2 down in the Cubs' 6th. Here's Jody Davis. Jody 0 for 2. He's gone out to Kurt Ford twice. A gray day in St. Louis. Cool and overcast. And the Cubs are down by 4. Cox shoots at home, misses high, ball 1. Jody now with 100 career home runs. There's a high popper right side. Clark over near the stands, but that's going to be out of reach. 1 ball, 1 strike.
This becomes a bigger at bat because if Jody can keep it alive, Sean Dunston is due up next, and he looks like he's getting a very good look at Danny Cox. He's been up twice, he's hit the ball hard twice, and to get back in this game, Cubs have to put some numbers up.
Well, the Cubs have had a hit in every inning. This pitch is high, 2-1. So far, the only run came in the 3rd, when Walker doubled and Dawson singled. Otherwise, everything else has been pretty well spread out, and through it all, Cox has not walked anybody. He had Jody out in front, and the count is 2-2.
Jody looked like that finger bothering him some when you don't make contact, and I'm sure that he could feel the chip fracture in that little finger on his right hand. He's taken some time now, you can see. It's talking to him.
He's back in with a 2-2 count. Base is empty. And there's ball 3. So the count is full to Jody Davis. Now the pitch, off speed, bounding ball, foul. Vukovich with a pickup in the coaching box. Cubs in Montreal tomorrow. Jamie Moyer will open that series. There's a line drive, base hit into center field. So the Cubs with another hit. It's number 7. A 2-out single by Jody Davis, and it brings up Sean Dunston. Now Dunston singled with 2 outs in the 4th. Sandberg singled with 2 outs in the 5th, and Jody Davis has singled with 2 outs in the 6th. Cubs need someone to hit another long one. There's a ball. Dunston 2 for 2 with a double and a single. Cubs won the first night on the 9th inning home run by Jody Davis, and then the grand slam last night by Andre Dawson, the key. There's a look at Andre on the Cub bench. Fly ball center field. Ford coming in. He's there and makes the catch to retire the side. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, 1 left. Bottom of the 6th inning coming up. 5-1 St. Louis. Bottom of the 6th from St. Louis. 5-1 Cardinals. Well, that's a divided issue in that family.
Well, that's a family with all the bases covered, and the youngster on the left having a good time with the concessions.
Number 19, Manny Trio.
Manny Trio enters the game for the Cubs and takes over at second base for Ryan Sandberg. And Terry Pendleton will open the bottom of the 6th for the Cardinals. There's Trio. We'll see if we get word on Sandberg.
It's surprising. I don't know if there's anything wrong with it.
Pendleton takes the pitch from Maddox down and in, ball 1. 5 runs on 6 hits off Maddox. Pendleton ground ball up the right field line. Extra bases into the corner. Dawson waits for the ball to come out. Pendleton rounding second and decides to stop there. So a double for Pendleton to open the Cardinals' sixth. That's his fourth double, his first hit this afternoon.
A little surprised that Greg Maddux came out to pitch this bottom of the sixth inning. He's been roughed up today. He's thrown a lot of pitches, and this time Terry Pendleton with his first base hit drives it down the line. And he stops at second base. Good strong throw by Andre Dawson, and Pendleton thinks twice. Nick Leyva holding him up at third.
So Pendleton aboard with a double. Cub bullpen goes back to work. Les Lancaster had been throwing earlier, and he's up once again. Tom Pagnozzi, the catcher's the hitter. He's nothing out of one. He walked his first time and scored. Fly ball right field for Dawson, who makes the catch. Pendleton holding at second. One gone in the sixth inning with a man at second. That's going to bring up Danny Cox.
Danny Cox has really used the ballpark today. You know, anytime you have the home field advantage, you want to take advantage of the fact that you know the field a little better than your opposition. There's been 8 fly balls to center field, and what Cox has been doing is throwing the high fastball away from the Cub hitters and letting him hit it to the most spacious part of the park. It's 414 to center field, and he's got a guy out there in Kurt Ford who can go get him.
You know, that's particularly evident in Leon Durham. They can't work him that way at Wrigley Field because he'll hit the ball out to left center. But here, they can work him that way, and he's 0 for 3 with 2 fly balls to center and the other a pop foul to third. Well, here's Danny Cox with a man at second and 1 gone. Cox nothing out of 1 with a sacrifice in this game. And he takes ball 1. Cub outfield shifted way around to the right side with Cox at the plate.
He's a pretty good hitter, and he's a guy who can pull the ball. They'll have to keep the ball away from him.
Ground ball, third base. Moreland up with it. The throw to first is in time.
Maddux fell off the mound after delivering that pitch and tumbled into the infield. So he'll have to get himself situated. I don't think he wants to adopt that Nelson Briles follow through. Watch it again.
This is a follow through and a half. He's quick on his feet and quick off his feet as well.
Back up like a cat.
Here's Vince Coleman. Coleman singled in a run in the second, walked in the fifth. Got him on a ground ball to third his first time. 2 outs into the bottom of the sixth here with Pendleton at second. Maddux due to hit second in the Cubs' seventh, so this will be it for him. The pitch is in for a strike. Coleman, the hitter. There's Pendleton at second.
Jody might take a shot at Pendleton. He was way off the bag when the pitch was delivered.
The pitch. There's a strike on the inside part of the plate. Pretty good fastball over the corner that time. 2 strikes now, the count on Vince Coleman. Maddux stretching. Pitch is up and away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Pendleton bluffing a break that time off second. Maddux very deliberate. The long look this time. And he misses again to even the count at 2-2. Well, you can tell by just watching Maddux that things have not fallen in to sync for him here this afternoon.
No, he got off to a rocky start. He never really got his feet under him. And the Cardinals have just pecked away.
Start of a move to second. No throw. Pendleton back to the bag.
Looks like Pendleton's ready to go. I thought he was going to steal third base that time. Let's see if he goes this time.
The 2-2, foul ball right back into the top of the screen. Cardinals have 3 stolen bases in this game and 27 for the year. They're 27 out of 31 running. This pitch popped up, foul ball near the stands. Again, Jody over there for it, but on top of the dugout and out of play. And Moreland and Jody flanking Maddox as Maddox raced into foul territory as well. So the count to Coleman remains 2-2. Cubs starting the afternoon with a mark of 6-7. The Mets leading the Eastern Division by a half game over the Cardinals. St. Louis 7-6. Cubs a game and a half back. Pittsburgh and Montreal each 2 back, and the Phillies 4-10, 4 games off the pace. Coleman readies himself. Maddox is set. The stretch. Now he steps off the rubber. Here's the 2-2. Pendleton's going this time. A swing and a miss. Coleman's out on strikes, and that retires the side. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. Through 6, the score 5-1 St. Louis.
We're back for the top of the 7th. Steve Stone and the handsome gentleman behind me, Ken Wilson. And so far, Ken, it's all Cardinals.
Well, the Cardinals seem to be doing everything right. Greg Maddux is, I guess we should say, getting a lot of experience out of the mound this afternoon.
And I think his experience, at least for today, is coming to an end. They'll pinch hit for him, and Les Lancaster is going to come into the ball game.
Well, it will not be the first time that Les Lancaster has worked against the Cardinals. He worked in the first 2 games to open the season at Wrigley Field. The Cardinals taking those 2. And the Cubs will see what they can do here in the 7th about putting some runs on the board. David Martinez has flied out twice. Then Matthews to pinch hit, and back to the top of the order in Chico Walker. Danny Cox's pitch is grounded right to Jose Oquendo, and on 1 pitch there's 1 out.
Matthews picked up a pinch hit last night. He's 1 for 4 this year in the pinch hitting department. Gary comes in an even .250, and the only action he's seen has been as a pinch hitter.
It's been one of those afternoons, Steve, where the Cubs have done just enough to be dangerous, but not really gotten the job done in any inning. You've got at least 1 hit in every inning, a couple of hits in the 3rd, and that's where the run came, and half a dozen runners have been stranded. Cox is giving a little, but not quite enough. Matthews, ground ball over the bag at 3rd, deep, backhanded by Pendleton on the turf. The 1-hop throw, and Matthews is gunned down, and there are 2 away.
Matthews doesn't run very well. Terry Pendleton knows that. So when he goes toward the line, he realizes he's got some time. You can see he plants the back foot. Now he takes advantage of the turf, and he gets it across, and they get Matthews by plenty.
Both third basemen have taken advantage of the turf here this afternoon. Moreland did it earlier. Now here's Chico Walker. He had the double with 1 out in the 3rd, and then with 2 outs scored on Andre Dawson's single. 1 strike on Chico Walker.
Danny Cox has been anything but overpowering. He does not have a strikeout yet. He's just letting the Cubs hit the ball. He's taken advantage of the big ballpark. 8 flyouts to center field, numerous flyouts to left and right. So Cox just making sure he gets the ball over.
And he has not allowed any walks. So consequently, the Cubs have not been aided anywhere in that area. That would have made a difference, I'm sure, if he would have given up a walk in an inning somewhere with a sprinkling of hits. Maybe the Cubs could have developed something, but good control has been an ally of Danny Cox. You go on the other side and you look at the 5 walks that Maddox has given up, and they've hurt him. Here's a bolt off Walker's bat. Ford won't get to it. Walker will head of a double. It'll be a ground rule double as the ball bounces into the crowd. I thought Chico might have had a shot at 3 had that one not kangarooed into the stands.
Second double of the day for Chico Walker, and he drives this ball to right center field. Kurt Ford comes up a little short. Made a spectacular catch yesterday. It's not to be here today. And as you can see, the ball winds up in the net. So the Cubs have another hit, and they keep up their pace of at least 1 an inning against Danny Cox.
Manny Trio, 1 for 5, has a single. Coming in at second base for Ryne Sandberg last inning. So it's Trio's first at bat against Danny Cox. Outfield shades Manny to right field. Strike 1.
And we still have no report on why Ryne Sandberg left the ball game. We'll check into that and get it for you later. And as we speak, Jack Rosenberg up with fleet feet out of the booth.
2 outs. Walker at second base in the 7th inning, and the Cubs trail the Cardinals 5-1. 1 ball, 1 strike on Manny Trio. Boy, Manny has seemingly been around forever. Signed as a catcher at age 17. Boy, what great years he's had. The breaking pitch, and it's 2-1. Have you seen many ball players any more effortless than Manny Trio?
He's got great hands, and he does everything smoothly. But it's hard to believe with that body that he was once a catcher.
He's trying to score Walker here in the 7th inning. It's 3 balls and a strike.
Whitey Herzog does not want to go to the bullpen early. The man that he would like to bring in, if he brings anybody in, would be Todd Worrell, and that would be in the 8th or 9th. He certainly doesn't want to bring in Bill Dawley, who's been charged with a loss in each of the first 2 games of this series.
The way the bullpen has been going, I'm sure he would like to see a complete game. Down the pipe, the fastball, 3-2. Complete games at this juncture of the season have been few and far between. Cubs with a complete game from Sutcliffe. The Cardinals have not had a complete game thrown yet. 5-1. Cubs trail, 7th inning. Curveball hit to left on the 3-2 pitch, and Coleman makes the play to retire the side. No runs a hit. That's 8 hits today for the Cubs, but they have left 7. It's 7th inning stretch time at Busch Stadium. 5-1 Cardinals. This one moves to the bottom of the 7th inning here on a rainy, cloudy afternoon in St. Louis, and the Cubs come in with right-hander Les Lancaster, who just turned 25 a couple of days ago.
No record for Les. 4.15 ERA, making his 4th appearance. He's finished 2 of those. 4 in the 3rd inning, 6 hits and 2 earned runs. He's walked 2. He struck out 6. And Maddox went 6 innings, gave up 5 runs on 7 hits. He walked 5, and that got him into trouble. He struck out 2.
Ozzie Smith has scored 2 of the Cardinals' runs. He has doubled in 3 at-bats. He takes a strike.
The ankle of Ryne Sandberg has been giving him problems the last week or so, and perhaps that's why he left the ball game today.
Ozzie lines one into the Cubs bullpen. Quickly, Lancaster ahead, 2 strikes. Well, both starting second basemen have departed. Ryne Sandberg and Tommy Herr, who left with a groin pull. Lancaster's fastball, 1-2. The Cardinals have seen Lancaster. They saw him in the 2nd game of the season at Wrigley Field. He was the final pitcher in that one. Fastball, and Ozzie doesn't get around. 1-2. Lancaster trying to really explode out of nowhere, and I think surprised a lot of people, making the club. blossoming late, never has pitched AAA ball. From the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He comes under the chin of Ozzie, and it's 2 balls, 2 strikes.
The Cubs toyed with the idea of sending him down a couple times in spring training, but every time they did, he threw the ball well enough to stay.
He takes a little off the pitch, and he gets Ozzie on the ground ball, and there's 1 out.
It pays to have good hands on the mound, and Les Lancaster had very good hands on that play. That ball was hit hard right back at him.
Here is Jose Oquendo. Pinch ran after Herr injured himself in the 3rd, singled and scored in the 5th inning. One of the things the Cubs have liked about Lancaster is his makeup. That's his curve, and it's outside for a ball.
He usually doesn't wear the makeup, though, during the games.
No, well, he's making a special exception, put a little on his cheek here today. 2-0 the count on Oquendo. You do stand-up comedy often. One of your restaurants in the back room.
You got to have fun when it's 5-1 here.
3-0 on Oquendo.
Herm Starrett talking it over with Gene Michael.
And Oquendo draws a 1-out walk here in the 7th inning. Maddox gave up 5 walks. Lancaster issues his first.
A lot of Cub fans in attendance today, and we have a note from the Chicago Tribune circulation department here in St. Louis. The agents are at the game. They're certainly enjoying the day, but hoping the Cubs can put some runs on the board. Mary Robbins, Mary Lou Fosberg here from Lincoln, Nebraska. Also, Cub fans want to say hello to Ken Wilson and myself.
Cubs fans are everywhere. Clark has a 2-run double and a foul ball, 1 strike.
When you foul the ball straight back, you weren't fooled by the pitch, and then it's up to the pitcher to make an adjustment. If you foul the ball off either way, then you were fooled. So right now, Lancaster probably realizing that Jack Clark was right on that pitch, and he better make an adjustment, or Clark's going to hit it hard somewhere.
Cubs look for the double play, and it is 1 ball and 1 strike. You don't have to go too far from Busch Stadium to run into a lot of Cubs fans. Talking about Cubs fans being just about everywhere nowadays. 2-1 on Jack Clark. And of course, when these 2 teams get together, you have a mixture of red and blue, be it here at Busch Stadium or at Wrigley Field. Oquendo's running on the 2-1 pitch. A ball, and Jose is out. And out from here to there as Trio applies the tag on the 2-4 putout. They're 2 away.
Jody Davis got rid of the ball quickly, and there was really no chance for Jose Oquendo. Watch how quickly he gets up and heads back to the dugout. Not a debatable issue.
He doesn't.
Take it on back, Jose. Watch it again. Good throw. Manny Trio waiting for him with a present.
The pitch to Jack Clark misses, and Clark draws a walk. Oquendo's pretty smart. He knows when there's a big TV audience. He says, let me go. I'll move on. So a walk to Clark with 2 away.
The 2 walks can't help the cause of Les Lancaster and staying with that ball club. With Sanderson being activated on Saturday, the Cubs having a roster move to make. If you look down and you look at some of the names, you realize that they'd like to get Lancaster as much work as possible, and he might benefit from a little time in AAA.
Cubs fan hoping that Lancaster can get Lindeman here for the final out. The slider in for a strike. Cardinals exploded with 2 in the 1st, 1 in the 2nd. Cubs run came in the 3rd, and then St. Louis added 2 more in the 5th. It's 5-1. Cubs trail in the 7th inning. 1-1.
You'd have to love what you see at Jim Lindeman in the early going. He's able to get the tough RBIs, the 2-out RBIs that help a ball club.
He's also hit into a double play and walked today, and he's up there 2 balls and 1 strike. He's got, Steve, that nice short swing. He's able to stay back. He can hit the breaking ball the opposite way. He's unlike most young, strong hitters who come up who, have a longer swing. They want to shorten it and have trouble waiting and going the opposite way, but he can do it. 3 balls and a strike on Lindeman.
Lindemann hit 20 home runs at Louisville last year. Came up here, hit a home run for the Cardinals. Hit around 250 in both places. But they feel he matured in winter ball and spring training enough so he had enough power where they felt he could help out the club.
Good breaking pitch. Clark is at first base with 2 outs, and it's 3-2 on Jim Lindemann. Well, you look around the league, you've got Benito Santiago, the Padres catcher, a Rookie of the Year candidate. Alonzo Powell. You'll get a look at him again this weekend in Montreal. Lindemann jammed, breaks his bat, and Moreland throws him out. In the inning, a couple of walks. That's all the Cards can muster. They leave a runner, and it's on to the 8th. The Cubs need runs. They trail 5-1.
WGN and Arnie Harris really liked the makeup of Ken Wilson, so they decided to put him on again, and you're looking pretty spiffy going in the 8th inning.
Hey, that's suntan. That's what that is. And not from this afternoon, I might add. We need some more runs here for the Cubs.
A cold day, and they haven't been able to do a great deal with Danny Cox. They've gotten their base hits, but they haven't been able to bunch him. And Danny Cox has gotten out of trouble, and more times than not, it's been with fly balls to the outfield, especially center field. So Cox looking for a complete game, and Whitey Herzog looking to rest that bullpen.
Tito Landrum takes over in right field for the Cardinals, the veteran outfielder.
And the official diagnosis for Ryan Sandberg is he left the game due to lower back spasms. And he'll be day-to-day.
Andre Dawson, 8th inning. Cubs needing runs. Dawson has driven home the only Cubs run today against Danny Cox. Ball 1. I do an event just about every day on TV. I've been on camera more today than I have been in a week or two. You guys are something.
Arnie says you need the exposure.
There's no question about that. Dawson pops the ball up. Cox should direct traffic. Pendleton should take the ball, and he does. And oh well, it's not always that easy. The old should-haves, and he should, and he should, and they almost blew that play.
You don't see many spectacular catches on pop-ups right around home plate. Now Danny Cox has got to come running down and yell out who's going to make this play. But watch what happens when Terry Pendleton comes on the scene. He makes a spectacular catch out of something that should have been routine. He almost snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory on that one. And this woman is really excited. She's looking to see if that's exactly what happened.
How far is she from home plate? She must be in the parking lot. The hitter is Keith Moreland. He drives one a mile. If it'll be fair, it has got plenty of distance. It hits the pole, and Keith Moreland hits his first home run of the season, and the Cubs now trail by 3.
That's the 5th RBI and another $100 from True Value Hardware to Cubs Care and Northwestern Memorial Hospital in the fight against cancer. Moreland hit that ball a ton. Only question is, would it curve foul? It didn't. It hit the pole. And that might set the bullpen busy because Keith Moreland turned on a fastball.
Moreland had a dozen last season. That's his first of the campaign. He really hit it.
Take another look at this. A fastball up and in, and Keith Moreland turns on it. Joe West down the line to make the call. And it hits the pole, a home run.
Leon Durham looks at ball 1 from Danny Cox. Todd Worrell begins to warm in the Cardinals bullpen. 2-0. And Danny Cox looking as though he's running out of gas in the 8th, and Whitey Herzog would love nothing more than to not have to go to the bullpen today. Pendleton. He'll make this one look routine. And that's 2 away.
Let's take a look at the swing of Keith Moreland. Look at the arm extension. Sees the ball inside, draws his hands in. Now he knows he got all of this. And take a look at Danny Cox. Go foul. Go foul. Oh, darn, it didn't go foul.
Looked like he's next to the pool table. Cox now will face Jody Davis. Well, while the Cubs go on to Montreal, the Cardinals are heading to New York for a head-to-head series with the Mets this weekend, and that's another reason that Whitey Herzog would like to have Todd Worrell as fresh as possible. They'll be battling it out for first place over the weekend at Shea Stadium. 1-0 on Davis. He bolts it into the hole. Ozzie playing deep. Here's the throw. He gets it. The crowd loving the performance as always by baseball's greatest shortstop, Ozzie Smith. A run on a Moreland homer. Middle of the 8th. 5-2 St. Louis. Fans trying to keep warm here at the ballpark. A couple of secretaries apparently unable to reach the office today.
And close to 30,000 people here to watch this one. Montreal has taken a 6-5 lead over Philadelphia in Montreal. That game in the 7th inning. Have you ever asked Whitey Herzog how he got the nickname?
The White Rat or Whitey?
Whitey.
It goes back a ways to, I think, Class A ball, right?
Well, I don't know exactly, but I do know that your name is Dorell Norman Elvert Herzog. You kind of gravitate to that Whitey.
Yeah, you have good reason to come up with a nickname. A sports writer actually gave him that nickname when he was a young player in the minor leagues. 1 strike on Curt Ford. The Cardinals center fielder playing for the injured Willie McGee is 0 for 3 today. Les Lancaster in his 2nd inning of work takes the count to 0-2.
Todd Worrell still loosening in the pen, which would lead you to believe that he's coming on to throw the 9th inning, and the Cubs have the bullpen going, and it looks like Ron Davis.
5-2 Cubs trail, and Moreland high in the air to grab the line drive off Ford's bat. 1 out.
Consort Hairspray has a Consort Control Pitcher Award every year. Last year, the winners, Mike Scott in the National League and Roger Clemens in the American League. And as play develops a little further into the season, we'll talk to you a little more about who's leading in the various leagues. We're going to take a look at Keith Moreland once again. Doesn't have to get up very high, but he times his jump perfectly. A little basketball in this man's past.
Terry Pendleton drives one deep to right. Dawson into the corner with plenty of room. That's 2 away. And it'll bring up the Cardinals catcher, Tom Pagnozzi. 5-7-0 for St. Louis. The Cubs 2-9-1. Cubs run in the 3rd, driven home by Andre Dawson with a single, and then the home run by Keith Moreland here in the 8th inning.
Cubs happy they haven't had to take a look at Steve Lake today. Last night had a couple of base hits and a couple of RBIs, and he threw out the first Cub base runner of the year, so their string was stopped at 32 going back to last season.
Curveball for ball 1. Well, the Cubs have been sensational stealing bases, generally gotten the good pitching. I think in this series, Steve, the bats of the Cubs have really started to come alive quite a bit.
The long ball came into evidence the last couple days. Today they've swung the bats pretty well. They just haven't been able to get their hits together.
1-2 on Pagnozzi. Well, the Cubs, as we just mentioned, about hit the Cardinals 9-7, but you're right, they've just been well spread out by Danny Cox. Pagnozzi, considered a very good offensive player, still has to develop his defense to be an everyday receiver in the big leagues. Out of play, 1-2.
You know, he's got a lot of power, because anytime you can hit a ball out opposite field in Busch Stadium, you know that you've really juiced the ball. It's dead in the alleys, and he hit the ball over the 383 sign in right center, and that is a long poke.
He's a hitter, and he swings and misses. He strikes out here. Lancaster has a 1-2-3 frame. Cubs will have to do it in the 9th. Sean Dunston scheduled to lead off, and it's 5-2 Cardinals. Danny Cox, trying to go for the complete game, will start the 9th inning here. He is scattered the Cubs hits, giving up 9. Fans trying to keep warm after a day interrupted frequently by rain. And Steve Stone, the Cubs are going to see what they can do about at least first getting some base runners here.
You'd have to say that Danny Cox is out there on a string, because I don't think Whitey Herzog is going to be too patient, or else still throwing in the bullpen. So he's going to try to get the complete game out of him, but he's not going to let him dig himself into too big a hole.
Sean has a double and a single, and he is flied out. His infield single was a line drive shot off third baseman Terry Pendleton's glove. 5-2, so the Cubs need some runners here. David Martinez will be up second in the inning, and the pop-up foul. Pagnazzi to the on-deck circle, and he makes the catch. Boy, he had to tiptoe over the weighted bat, the donut, the pine tar rag, and maybe just a towel to wipe off some bats.
This might be one of the few donuts that Pagnazzi has tiptoed over in his career, but he does it pretty neatly. Makes a pretty good catch. This is a tough play. It's an easier play for the third baseman, but it's too close to home plate, and Pagnazzi makes the effort.
Cubs trying to come back with a big ninth inning rally and sweep the Cardinals. But it's a tall order. Danny Cox working now on David Martinez. He is 0 for 3, and he takes strike 1.
Jerry Mumphrey in the on-deck circle.
Over 31,000 in the park here in St. Louis for this afternoon game. Change 1-1, and when you consider it rained most of the morning, temperature in the 50s after summer-like weather for a week, it just points up the outstanding rivalry between the Cubs and the Cardinals. Two great franchises, two tremendous baseball towns. In left, backing up, Coleman, and Martinez is gone, and the Cubs in the ninth down to their final out.
Jerry Mumphrey hitting an even .500. He's 2 for 4. A home run and 3 RBIs as a pinch hitter.
Jerry Mumphrey.
You know, I appreciate you inviting me over, Steve. I would have rather been here to describe the Cubs' heroics the last 2 nights.
Well, they have some time left for some heroics, but the way Danny Cox is pitching, you'd have to say that the day belongs to him to this point, and he's done it without a strikeout, and he's done it without a walk, and that is an unusual circumstance in the major leagues.
Jerry Mumphrey pinch hitting. Danny Cox an out away from the Cardinals' first complete game, and Danny an out away from running his record to 3-0. Again, he didn't pick up a win last season until June. Ball 1, and he still had a better than decent year, going 12-13. So Mumphrey trying to get something going, pulls the ground ball into right field. So as this one turns out, the Cubs get at least 1 hit in every inning. And here they are with 2 outs in the ninth, trailing by 3.
And now the loss of Ryne Sandberg early in the game really comes into play, because Manny Trillo, due up next, is a good hitter, but he's not a man who can take the ball out of the ballpark consistently. And if Walker can keep it alive, and he's hit the ball very well against Danny Cox with a couple of doubles, it would bring Trillo and not Sandberg to the plate.
Cards are not concerned about Mumphrey. Clark plays well behind him. Ball 1 to Chico Walker.
You'd have to say if they're giving you second base to take it, because it takes the force out in the infield, and although you'd say it's a risky play, he can get a big enough lead and make it.
Ground ball to Clark. Oh, a bad hop off the seam. Mumphrey to third as Landrum's throw comes in, and a break opens that door a little bit for the Cubs, and they're 2 on with 2 outs. Potential tying run comes to the plate.
Watch this hop. It almost takes the head right off Jack Clark. It hits the seam and goes right over the head of Clark into right field. And now a tough decision for Whitey Herzog. Do you stay with Cox with the tying run up, or do you go to the bullpen? And with that in mind, Lee Smith has taken the long walk down to the pen for the Cubs.
2 down. Trillo has had 1 at bat. He flied to left in the 7th. Whitey typically goes to the bullpen, but this last few days has not been typical for the Cardinals and Whitey. Trillo looks at a fastball, strike 1.
There you take a look at Lee Smith, and if there's anything left in the arm of Danny Cox, Manny Trillo is going to see it right here.
Keep in mind, Dawson is on deck. Walker with good speed at first. Mumphrey at third. 5-2. Cubs trail, and that should do it. Trillo on a 1-strike pitch pops it up. Oquendo squeezes it, and the Cubs end up taking 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals here at Busch Stadium. 2-11-1 for the Cubs today. 5-7-0 for the Cardinals. They win it 5-2. Steve and I will be back right after this.
The Budweiser play of the game. 2 on, 2 out. Jim Lindemann up, and he drives the ball into right field. driving home 2 runs in the first inning, and the Cardinals were on top to stay. That's the Budweiser play of the game. Steve Stone back with Ken Wilson, and you'd have to say, just like a football defense, Danny Cox bent, but he didn't break today.
I think a big factor in this game, Steve, was the fact that the Cardinals scored early, got Maddox and the Cubs in the hole, and Danny Cox was able to make different pitches, as you know, as the game went on. He had the lead. It really helped Danny Cox. He just got better as the day went on.
And the Cubs showed some signs of breaking out of it, but they couldn't bunch their hits today. They got at least 1 hit in every inning, 2 in one of the innings, but they couldn't put it over to the top. So, Ken, we'd like to thank you for joining us, sitting in for Harry Carey. You did a good job, and we'll see you down the line.
Steve, always a lot of fun, and I think the Cubs are going to win a lot of ball games, and I enjoyed it today. Thank you.
And the final totals for the Cardinals: 5 runs, 7 hits, no errors. The Cubs, 2 runs, 11 hits, and 1 error. The winner, Danny Cox, he's 3-0. The loser, Greg Maddox, he's 0-2. So from St. Louis, Steve Stone and Ken Wilson. We'll see you tomorrow from Montreal. Our next telecast will be tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 when the Cubs take on the Montreal Expos. Our executive producer-director, Arnie Harris. Our sports editor, Jack Rosenberg. This has been a WGN Television 9 sports presentation.